Hello viewers and subscribers, welcome once again my new screencast. This will be the screencast, multi-part screencast about the creating the Spring Boot application with the database migration tools with Flyway. It will be the REST APIs to expose it, but the main point is how this application can be deployed into the Docker and the Kubernetes cluster. That's the main idea. So the previous screencast, it was about how can you deploy the application into the Docker containers. So I took these same applications from the Docker containers and then put it this Docker application container applications to deploy or to orchestrate the application into the Kubernetes cluster. So that's the reason I try to share with you what's the best practices and how can you take the same applications into the Docker container to the Kubernetes orchestration containers. That's the main idea, to shifting the application from, if your company is required to get learning about the Kubernetes, and then also and also the some my data migration tools like Flyway or Liquid. I already had two application about that one. We can start that one also. But this one will be the based on the Flyway and Flyway based data migration tools. And then we can, so if you look for the previous screencast, so I already have some screencast about how can you build the projects, how can you generate the project from the Spring initializer, and then after the importing the projects, and then how can you start all the migrations script, and even though how can you start all the ORM modeling part and all things together. So it's all things together. These are the developments I already started to the other screencast, but maybe you can follow the previous screencast to get it clear pictures. But I think I will start the complete discussion, complete development from step by step with the next screencast. So today we are trying to discuss about about the applications, like the same applications, same the REST APIs to expose, same the project structure, same data migration tools with the all respectives. We have 5 versions. I will show you how it is migrated in the database and all the cross checks things to when I started the developments. So this is the screencast, just like introductions. How can you think about how can you configure those applications or any applications, Spring Boot based applications, to deploy the Kubernetes cluster via the Docker. This is the idea. So if you see the pictures, like you have some YAML configuration YAML files and the standard settings of the Maven projects. So it has this as a main Java source packet, and the target and test packet, and then target classes when after the generating the jar files. So I just create the jar files out of here, and then I will deploy the application externally. This is the most important part. You need to be really close look on it at once. So go back to the presentations. What I have it, the additional informations. So that means will be the presentation with the Docker and Kubernetes, and the tools that we are using, the Minikube and kubectls. That's everybody knows. The Minikube is a single node. When you install or when you start the Minikube, and it will create the single node or one node Kubernetes cluster into the whole host machine. And then this is the kubectl is the command line tools, which is the communication between the you communicate, or you can manipulate, or you can all the controls with the command line tools with your Kubernetes cluster. So that's the main two tools you need to be installed, because the previous screencast I already discussed about how can you install the Docker desktop or Docker installation into the your different operating system. But for this case, we are using the Docker desktop. Those who are really interested to work with the front-end GUI with GUI Docker desktops. So you see the Docker desktops in these pictures. So at the moment there is no no images, no containers is running, no volumes, and then no environments is setting. So this is the really good tools. You can look for these ones, and you can start from very beginning level to the end deployment level for our applications. So in the Docker, if you see the Docker desktop, so if you deploy some images, you can see these images and size of the images when the image is created, and even though all the volumes information for your storage, and the application, which application is running for your Docker out of your Docker instances or Docker containers. That's the idea to come up this one. So that means, okay, we have Spring Boot and Spring Boot JPA JPA based applications. This is the Flyway database migration tools, and this will be expose some REST APIs with this is the main APIs basically for the user registration APIs. So that means user informations, and it has the role, and it has logging privileges information with the REST API. So we will discuss the application when we start the and then deployment will be the different production environments or development environment, test environments, and release and production environment need to be deployed the applications. That's the idea. So we already discussed the last screencast how the standards, the generic Docker files, environmental variables are supported. Okay, you see if I go to the applications, it's a Docker files. So you have Docker files here. So the standard, the variables, the arguments, run, maintenance, volumes, and this is the copy of your jar file, standalone jar file created to the your project applications, and this is a version number, and deploy and put it into the container container path or directories, and endpoints in Java, simply very simple Docker files. Maybe you can layer it to different layers in the Docker files with the different directory creations, the library layer, resource layers, and then your others resource layers informations. But for this case, we write down a very simple Docker files to create the Docker image out of your standalone jar files. So this is the discussion that I need to be no, sorry, this is the deployments. You see I just simply create the jar files from out of other projects. I will show you later out of the projects. So I just simply copy the jar files and then put the jar files into the copy, and then put the jar file into the respective directory. So I put it jar files, and after that putting the jar files, I also copy the jar files into this directory, the Docker files. So you see the exactly the same we are loading from the Java base image is Java 8, OpenJDK Java 8, and then there's some arguments to communicate, and maintenance and volumes. The most important part, this is the part. So root directory, just simply copy your jar files, your respective version jar file to the your container or Docker container jar path, and then run these applications. And then we see the project structure that I'm talking about. So it has some application, the config maps, the Postgres config maps, a very simple config map. I will discuss a little bit more when I started every packet of every configuration file when I started. But for this screencast, I just recap how what we need to be do in the next. That's the recap. So this is one of the
config maps with the database informations, and then you see the config map kind, config maps, and data as host name, and then the database